Hey guys, Drifter here. Welcome to Warzone in Depth. In today's episode, I want to ask the question, is the KRIG-6 worth using? The KRIG-6 was buffed in the most recent Season 3 update to Warzone, and it's rapidly become a very popular weapon that I see a lot of players using, and I see a lot of streamers and YouTubers using it. So today, I want to do a statistical analysis of the weapon, and more specifically, I want to compare it to its closest competitors to see if it really edges them out. One thing I can say is definitely worth using is code DRIFTOR. It has to be all caps and the O has to be a 0 on the number pad, but if you put that in the store when you're picking up your battle pass or any cosmetics, I get a little kickback, so thank you guys for that. Though that does make this video sponsored by Activision, and I think I am the only person on the planet still doing that disclosure. As many of you already know, the KRIG-6 was recently buffed to have higher body multipliers and thus deal more damage as long as you're hitting body shots. The idea behind this is that really precise players are rewarded for their good aim with a faster time to kill, much like the Cold War AK-47 does, and I think that this is a fantastic way to move ahead with balancing and patches that you want to reward players for landing headshots and body shots and not making the weapons easy, or if they're going to do something really good, you have to be really good to get that performance out, kind of like dealing with the recoil on the AMAX. But we'll be talking about the AMAX in a minute, but for now let's focus up on the KRIG-6. The KRIG-6 has even become popular and meta with streamers who use this as a primary rifle for long-range engagements, and then who use these SMG-like FARA build as a backup. So we're kind of back to running double rifle here. They'll use the KRIG-6 at super long ranges where you would previously use a Kilo or AMAX, and then they're going to use the FARA up close. One of the first things we're going to take a look at is its damage and time to kill, and I just want to let you know the new time to kill on the buffed KRIG-6 still isn't that competitive, though the recoil is really low, which is nice, and we're going to take a look at recoil in a minute as well. The KRIG-6 damage by region is 45 damage for a headshot, it'll deal 33 damage to the body, that's both chest and stomach, and it'll decrease down to 30 if you're hitting people in the limbs. For comparison, one of the other more popular weapons is the FARA 83. The FARA will deal 46 damage to the head, which is 1 more point, and 2 less points for the body, and 1 more for the limbs. So very similar overall in damage, but do keep in mind the FARA shoots faster, so it'll have a faster time to kill. If you want to compare it to the Cold War weapons, which is, I believe, very appropriate, the KRIG-6 kills the slowest compared to the FARA and the XM4, which are the rifles that people are really looking at right now. The KRIG-6 is 644 milliseconds, the FARA is 600, and the XM4 is 582. Those are still relatively close together. That's only a few frames each, so you probably wouldn't notice a crazy huge difference, but it is still killing slower. One of the best ways to explain time to kill, especially over range, is with the graphs generated from TrueGameData.com, who is a hero for this whole community for making this website. So I wanted to compare the base KRIG-6, M13, Kilo 141, and FARA, which are the weapons that are roughly wanting to be that long-range accuracy rifle role. And it's a little bit messy, but what you're seeing here is that the FARA 83 is the fastest killing among them, up to about 27-28 meters, and then it has a damage drop-off range. And then after that, there's a nice little medium range where the KRIG-6 is doing very good. The Kilo does do better than the KRIG-6 up close. And then they really start struggling after about 40 meters, and after 40 meters, the KRIG-6 actually falls off and the FARA is faster again. I know that's a little bit messy. It's pretty much the same story when you do all of the popular attachments on the weapons, except it shrinks the little medium range advantage that the KRIG-6 had over the Kilo and over the M13 down a little bit, and this graph is very, very messy, so let's make it even simpler and just take a look at the KRIG-6 versus the FARA, and you can see that little parallelogram right there in the middle where the two lines intersect twice. That is the range where the KRIG-6 outperforms the FARA. The FARA is better at every other range, so roughly 25 to about 38 meters. KRIG wins, FARA wins long, and FARA wins up close. So what people have been wanting to do is to use the KRIG-6 as a long-range rifle like the Kilo, AMAX, the FARA, or the M13 and go for that low accuracy and like spam people down, kind of like the old Bruin meta. And I do have to admit, one of the things that this weapon has going for it is that the base recoil is a lot more accurate than the FARA and the other assault rifles. It is a really accurate weapon and it feels very good in my hands. More specifically, it's also a little bit better when you're trying to control the recoil. Of course, God tier players are going to be better than new players at controlling the recoil, but everybody's going to be fighting it a little bit, and the KRIG-6 doesn't require very much fight. I'm going to show you some recoil charts, but first I wanted to give a shout out to today's sponsor, which is ASTRO Gaming. They've been sponsoring me for the better part of a decade now. I literally always use ASTRO headsets every single day. The audio that I'm listening to edit this whole episode is with ASTRO headsets, so if you'd like to pick yourself up some A10s, A20s, A40s, the link is down there below in the description, and if you use my code, you'll get a little discount. Alright, so let's take a look at the recoil. On the left with the blue dot dots is the KRIG-6 and the more common low recoil attachments just fully loaded for Warzone. And on the right with those oddly spaced out red dots is the FARA 83, which would be its most direct competitor using the most common class, which does include the SPETZNAS RPK barrel. And you will see that the KRIG-6 is clearly superior. You get a lot more shots on target on the left than you do on the right. If we want to take a look at the FARA again and just junk that SPETZNAS barrel, which is so popular, and use almost any other one, you'll notice that it does improve. It's a bit tighter, a bit easier to control, but it's still not as good as the KRIG-6 is. This one I couldn't fill in all 800 dots, but I got 60 round mags, and I tried my best to control the recoil and dump the bullets exactly in one place. You'll see the KRIG-6 is on the left, a very nice, clean, nearly spherical pattern of very tight clustered shots. On the right, the KRIG-6 is still relatively tight, but you can see it struggling. You can see more space between the bullets and a kind of a wider width. You know, some of those shots are kind of going stray. So clearly the KRIG-6 has better recoil, just base recoil and controlling it, than the FARA 83, which is a huge advantage. And one other thing I wanted to do, this is the M13. I just have a soft spot for this gun. It doesn't have the best time to kill, but the recoil control is usually really good. On the left is uncontrolled and the blue dots, and as you can see, uncontrolled is not very hot. When I'm fighting it, it's not too bad, but I still think the KRIG-6 probably has superior recoil to the M13 even when I'm fighting it. And while the TTK may struggle, the KRIG does make up for it in some capacity with its recoil control. However, it does have handling stats advantages over the FARA 83 as well. So these basic advantages are it has 2 frames faster of aim down sights time, probably not something a lot of you will notice, but when you start stacking attachments, it'll matter. There's a plus 3% movement speed bonus to the KRIG, just movement speed in general, sprinting, moving, walking, whatever, and a 7% bonus to your strafe speed. So you can actually strafe left and right a little bit faster with the KRIG, which is very nice in my opinion. And while you're probably not wanting to use the KRIG at a range where these things are super important, they're nice bonuses to have. It won't be quite as slow as the FARA. You can run from the gas a little faster. It'll be a little nicer. But yeah, the ranges where you would really just be like strafing super fast and jump shotting people are not ranges where you should be using the KRIG, because the time to kill is going to be so much slower than the submachine guns and some of these other weapons. So now here near the end of the episode, it's very obvious that the KRIG-6's new time to kill isn't great, but it's also not bad. It's very kind of mediocre. However, it compensates for that with very low recoil. So, in my opinion, the KRIG-6 is definitely a viable weapon now, and it's great for new players. If you want a weapon that is simple to use, rewarding if you hit your shots, recoil's not too hard, got decent handling, decent range and all that, yeah, the KRIG-6 will perform really well for a lot of players. However, my other opinion is experienced players will probably do better with an AMAX or a FARA, especially in terms of time to kill, and especially on the AMAX. The AMAX kills significant, I didn't even put it on the list because it just like skews all the data and squishes all the lines together, but the AMAX kills significantly faster than the KRIG-6. It operates at the same ranges, and while the recoil is noticeably worse, it's very workable. So the AMAX is still king, and if you have good aim, or if you don't mind the recoil, the FARA will beat out the KRIG. So it's really more of a matter of personal taste, style, opinion. If you want a low recoil laser beam, I think the KRIG-6 is probably a better alternative than the M13 and definitely a better alternative than the Kilo right now. However, if you want a pure time to kill weapon, the KRIG-6 is not that. Stick with the AMAX instead. Guys, that is all for this episode of In Depth. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something useful, and if you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.